How many times have your attempts to create new habits or break old ones utterly failed? I've tried it many times and yeah, I've also failed. But then one day I learned about this fantastic idea called the 20-second rule, which has altered the way I perceive the world. My understanding of the situation improved, and trust me, you can succeed too. Welcome to Mountain Knowledge. Today we will be discussing how we can use laziness to our advantage, especially using the 20-second rule. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, and let's dive right in. It just takes 20 seconds to become lazy, which could be the difference between developing good habits and breaking bad ones. Most of the time, it is our times of laziness that leads us to engage excessively in our negative habits. But habits, whether good or bad, always start with willpower. On the other hand, willpower doesn't always seem so beneficial. Willpower ebbs and flows, and occasionally we simply don't feel like carrying out the intentions we had. You can't rely simply on willpower, otherwise some of those harder, busier days will catch up with you, and then it's going to be tough. Therefore, we should use the 20-second rule to create successful new behaviors. On such idle days where you don't feel like doing anything, whatever they may be, we often do whatever is most practical or simple, and often speaking, it is how we act. Even while we normally find these things tough, when we are driven, they become quite simple to complete. But when we're under pressure, worn out, lethargic, or have had a long day, we lack the motivation to put up the necessary work. Okay, so I mentioned this 20-second rule twice or thrice by now, but what is this 20-second rule? Shawn Achor, a New York Times bestseller, author of The Happiness Advantage, introduced the 20-second rule in his book. Like many of us, he also found it difficult to alter his behavior. Shawn Achor details his battle with habit transformation in his book, The Happiness Advantage. Shawn seemed to have a plan. According to him, the 20-second rule's guiding idea is rather straightforward. It is that by lowering the activation energy, you might make it simpler for the habit to become ingrained in your life. Shawn understood that to bring change, he had to alter his default behavior in some way, so he began hunting for a fix. He intended to spend less time watching TV and play his guitar more frequently. He understood that he needed to enter the closet first. He had to take the guitar case out each time he wanted to play, and then and only then could he begin to play. All of this took around 20 seconds, yet even this small amount of work seemed to be sufficient to stop Shawn from playing. Starting an action is always the most difficult step, and the less likely you are to begin an activity, particularly if you're feeling weary or lazy, the more activation energy it demands. But you might be wondering what activation energy is. Activation energy is the amount of effort you need to exert before you can begin something. As Achor describes, activation energy is the spark you need to ignite. The first spark required to accelerate a reaction is referred to as activation energy in physics, and the same as in the scientific world. People must use the same amount of physical and mental work to overcome reluctance and create a good habit. In Achor's case, he learned that even if it only took him an extra 20 seconds, having to take his guitar out of the closet to practice increased the amount of effort he needed to put out. Those 20 seconds made all the difference in whether he carried out his habit or not. He decided to position his guitar in the middle of his apartment after all. Guess what took place? Without fail, he played guitar for 21 non-stop days. All it needed for him to succeed in developing a new habit was to reduce the barrier to change by just 20 seconds. For instance, watching TV often requires very little activation energy. All you need to do is grab the remote, sit down, and you're ready. There is not much work involved. Now, to start exercising, a bit more activation energy is required. But when you think about it, lifting weights is not that difficult. Even if it's not as simple as lying on the sofa, the exercise is not all that strenuous. The fact that there are several steps you must take before you can start working out is what puts you off. You must prepare your workout bag and put on your shoes before driving to the gym, change into new clothes, and so forth. The obstacles are numerous and inconvenient. But since there would be less activation energy needed, working out would be considerably more comfortable if you could avoid some of those steps, or at least made them tolerable. The same applies to pretty much every other activity as well. The majority of the tasks aren't that challenging, but they do take a little extra work to begin. But once you get going and comfortable, it's usually easy to keep going, even if you don't always find the activity to be as enjoyable. Therefore, if you can minimize the activation energy needed to start a particular activity, your odds of acting on your desires rise tremendously. And this is crucial, because even if you appreciate something, you're more likely to skip it in favor of something easier, if there is a lot of friction in the way you start. Some of the things that you can include in the 20-second guideline are exercising frequently, eating nutritious food, reading books, bringing positive changes, and starting afresh. It's no secret that change is difficult. However, by comprehending activation energy, we may quickly replace harmful behaviors with constructive ones. Make it simple to start your desired actions, while making it challenging to start your undesirable ones. Then you will be the one controlling your actions, and thus bringing out desirable results. So there you have it, and I hope you liked the video. If you do, please enjoy this video and subscribe. Send us your feedback in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.